Movie friends, welcome back to the channel. Doing another reaction for Dead Meat. This is going to be for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's awesome because next month, or here in the next like 3 weeks, me, Michael, and his girlfriend Maya are all going to be heading to We Slaughter Barbecue over in Texas, which is the original gas station, Drayton Sawyer's gas station, where he served up the human barbecue for his customers. That's the location. Leatherface chases Sally up to it and everything in the movie. It's pretty iconic for Texas Chainsaw Massacre hardcore fans or just horror fans in general. So it's going to be really cool. We're going to stay the night there. We're going to film over there. We're going to have a lot of fun. So we're going to watch the Dead Meat kill count for the original film, and I'm very excited to do that. So if you like this type of content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. We post as often as we can. We keep it retro while we do it, and we enjoy doing it. So let's make sure. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're finally looking at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hell yeah.
Released in 1974. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has become the most requested franchise on this channel, and it's not hard to see why. The original film is one of the most influential horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
It came out before most of the other landmark films of the genre, including Halloween and just barely Black Christmas. Now, as amazing as the original Chainsaw Massacre is, in fact, Chelsea cites it as her favorite horror movie, I'm not sure if everyone who requested this franchise understands just how messed up it gets. And I don't only mean in terms of quality, even though plenty of these movies are straight up stinkers. Texas Chainsaw's continuity is severely convoluted, rivaled only by the clusterfuck that is the Halloween franchise. Get this, the original has 3 sequels, although parts 3 and 4 have completely different characters and storylines. The 2003 reboot with Jessica Biel was followed by a 2006 prequel, The Beginning. 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D is a direct sequel to the original 74 film. And finally, prequel, 2018's Leatherface is a prequel to the original that maintains continuity with the 2013
It doesn't
3D
stay consistent
film.
at
Did you get
all
all that? If not, don't worry. There will be plenty of time for review as we spend the next 2 months with this series, during which you'll see a bunch of different Leatherfaces, a whole bunch of people jumping through windows, and some familiar A-list actors along the way. But before all that craziness, we had the original, co-written and directed by Tobe Hooper.
Fucking amazing.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a certain reputation that it honestly doesn't deserve. Because I'm sure when you hear the name, you think stereotypical super bloody slasher, right?
No.
This movie is not that. Not at all. It's decidedly tame when it comes to gore, and to be honest, it's more of an art house film than a Friday the 13th type slasher. In fact, this movie is the subject of so many academic and analytical reviews that Chelsea devoted an entire episode of the Dead Meat podcast to it earlier this week. Do yourself a favor and check it out, since the kill count only provides jokes and some behind-the-scenes info. The podcast is where you'll get the fancy intellectual stuff. Going into this movie for the first time, you should probably set your expectations accordingly. The first half is surprisingly slow-paced, focusing mostly on setting the tone and relishing in Daniel Pearl's gorgeous cinematography. When things finally explode,
so many iconic shots.
It's not a hack-and-slash kill fest, but rather a soul-crushing nightmare of depravity at the hands of this franchise's bedrock, the sadistic Sawyer family. For those of you unfamiliar with this franchise, you may be surprised to learn that it revolves around a family of cannibals. During this series, we'll see the Sawyers go through half a dozen iterations, always changing family members and often changing their name. But the one consistent element of these movies, and the boy that you've all been waiting to see, is the infamous chainsaw-wielding, sweet, simple Leatherface. He's sometimes scared and confused, other times a bit more outright mean, and at one point, we'll even see him fall in love. But most of the time, Leatherface is a bit less evil than other killers like Michael or Jason, because he's usually being taken advantage of
he's being told what to do
by the rest of his much more malicious family members. Now, with all that table setting out of the way, let's finally start the meal and get to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Compared to a lot of slashers, though, Leatherface is actually one of the most complex killers out there.
The title Crawl, read by Night Court's John Larroquette in his first ever role.
For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare.
It implies that the movie was based on true events, and although some aspects of Leatherface and his family were loosely based on Ed Gein, the butcher of Plainfield who would make furniture out of stolen corpses, the plot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is entirely fictional. After establishing the setting of the summer of '73,
I did my research after watching it.
Pictures of a crime scene with a sound effect that would come to be iconic. It's used to great effect here, which will not be the case in some of the sequels. The crime scene snapshots lead into a strangely beautiful long shot of a desecrated corpse in a cemetery, as a radio broadcast reports a recent spree of unsolved grave robbings near the fictional town of Newt, Texas. This intro is all very understated and eerie, as is the title card and the opening credits. Like, seriously, is that the friggin' sun? What does that mean? It feels like I'm back in film school, but in a good way. We come out of all of that onto an armadillo in Texas. Always thought it was pronounced Amarillo. Driving down these Texas
I always thought the
roads
sun
is
meant
a
because of the
van full
heat in
youngsters
Texas, because
and
it does
this
get hot down there.
30-year-old disco stew looking dude who's pretending that he's still in his 20s. Don't worry, buddy, I can relate. Horror's first ever final girl, Sally Hardesty, is traveling to her grandfather's grave to make sure it hasn't been robbed as part of that spree the radio was talking about. While a local takes her to check on it, her wheelchair-bound brother Franklin has to hang back and listen to an old-fashioned horror harbinger of doom.
I see things.
Oh yeah, what do you see, pal? Besides the bottom of that bottle. On the way to their old family home, the kids pass a slaughterhouse where Franklin says their grandpa used to work. He goes into detail about the cattle killing procedures to this dude Kirk and his girlfriend Pam, who's the kind of gal who will ask you what your sign is 5 minutes after she meets you.
Saturn's a bad influence. It's just particularly a bad influence now because it's in retrograde.
They see a hitchhiker on the side of the road and decide to pick him up because it's too damn hot for a person to be just walking around here. The hitchhiker, played with a terrifying unstableness by Edwin Neal, says his whole family works
One
in
of the most
meat industry,
underrated
and inside
performances
his little
ever.
knapsack, he's got the pictures to prove it. Those are, yeah, real nice guy. He ends up grabbing Franklin's pocket knife right out of his hand and uses it to cut himself, all while some wonderfully jolly music plays on the radio. Aren't road trips the best? Edwin Neal's memorable performance as the hitchhiker was modeled after his nephew, who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Though, as he noted in an interview about it, his nephew was never once violent. Lots of horror movies, this series especially,
but in the movie
use
he had
people
to
with
be.
abnormal psychologies as villains. But it's always important to remember that in real life, those people are more often victims than perpetrators of violence. The hitchhiker takes a picture of Franklin and tries to force him to buy it.
$2. It's a good picture.
But when the kids
I
say
viewed it
no
always
thanks,
just as
he gets
performance, not
upset and lights
more,
the
but-
picture on fire with some gunpowder. As if that wasn't bad enough, he then takes out a straight razor and cuts Franklin's arm with it. That finally gets them to pull
Pretty good
over and kick the
effect
hitchhiker
right there.
out. And the kids drive away as he marks their van with his blood and blows raspberries in their wake. You kids should have been more careful. You're living in a post-Charlie Manson world here. They pull up to a
Yeah, I
gas
love the
station
only
slash
one who's
barbecue
freaking out
joint
for
and asks
Franklin
the
is his
proprietor
sister.
if he knows where they can find their old family home.
You boys don't want to go mess around no old house?
Yo, dude,
There's
you don't
where we're
know where
going.
I want to mess around. The station is out of gas, though, so the only things they leave with are a bag full of barbecue and a near-empty tank.
Can't
They
wait.
get to their old family house and start exploring it, with Sally showing the others her old room. Disco Stew, flirting with the final girl. Poor Franklin
Hell
is
yeah.
unable to come upstairs, though, which makes him feel pretty left out and leads to him also blowing raspberries in frustration, kinda like the hitchhiker.
If I have any more fun today, I don't think I'm going to be able to take it.
What I love about Franklin, though, is that he's only partly sympathetic, because he's also super whiny and obnoxious as all hell. In fact, actor Paul Partain, rest in peace, decided to stay in character for the entire shoot, so the rest of the cast ended up avoiding him on set.
Unfortunately, Franklin was such a whiny bastard. I was afraid if I ever took him off, that I couldn't get him back, and so I kept him on.
Yes, it was real effective. We were ready to kill each other.
Pam and Kirk head out to an old water
adds
hole,
to the
only to find
atmosphere,
it's been
you know?
dried up. But then they hear an engine.
I felt
running at
bad
a
for him.
nearby
I really
farmhouse
did. He
and
was
head over
just-
there to
people
see if
were
there's
treating
any
him
spare
like
gas
shit the
that they
entire
can buy
time.
for their van. Judging by the car park they find in the backyard,
Again, he
these
was
kids
whiny,
might just
so-
be the luckiest travelers in all of Texas. Or at least that's probably what they're thinking right now. They go around to the front porch where Kirk finds a nasty tooth that he puts into Pam's hand. She don't want no tooth fairy money and storms off, while Kirk's manly knock accidentally opens the front door. Not too much to look at inside, unless you're a big fan of taxidermy and Twin Peaks. Oh, and pig squealing?
That shot is one of my favorite
Kirk
shots in the
happens
movie.
to love
That
all three
shot
of
of the
those
hallway.
things, so he steps inside for a fun time, only for this to happen. Just as
Yeah.
with livestock,
Yeah.
the first hammer hit doesn't kill Kirk
One of the best
instantly,
kills
so
in the movie.
Leatherface has to hit him again before taking him back to the kitchen with an iconic sliding door slam.
Dude, it was so fucking
over.
gritty.
Outside,
and
Pam
brutal.
notices that Kirk has disappeared.
And the way
we
he
get
acted
another
dying,
iconic shot that follows
nailed
her
it.
from a low angle as she slowly approaches the house. This shot was a last-minute idea by cinematographer Daniel Pearl that the producers tried to nix since it wasn't on the shot list. Tobe Hooper overrode the producers, and it's since become one of the most famous shots from the film, even if actress Terry McMinn wasn't a big fan of it at first.
And then I saw in CinemaScope and Technicolor my cheeks right in the screen, and I was completely horrified for years.
She has since come around to it, though.
I'm laughing now because now I think it's great. Put it back up there.
Just like Kirk, Pam also lets herself into the house, which kind of makes this a home invasion movie if you look at it from Leatherface's perspective. Especially when Pam starts tripping all
Dude, I
over
would've
the
been
place
throwing
and trashing
up.
his stuff. Come on, Pam, this is their very important chicken room. They keep their best bones in there. And don't even think about sitting on that Skelefuton. That thing's on loan from Guillermo del Toro. All of the crazy bone art in this room and throughout the movie was made by production designer Robert Burns, who also taxidermied an actual armadillo corpse for that shot in the beginning of the film. Bob Burns was one of the most pivotal players in this movie's success. He would literally drive around to local farms gathering actual animal bones to make all these Sawyer family props. Without him and his creepy decorations, this movie wouldn't be half as effective as it is. After taking a long, slow-ass motherfucking look at all the horrors surrounding her, Pam finally decides to go on and get.
Some of those skeletons are fake, some of them are real.
Yet another classic moment occurs when he grabs her on the porch and heaves her back into the house.
Most of them are real,
It only gets worse for Pam when he takes her to the kitchen and uses a meat hook to hang her up, like so many animal carcasses. Although it's brutal and terrifying, it's shot in a surprisingly tame way, which is also the case when Leatherface revs his chainsaw.
Because it's more of the concept, the pain of just looking at her hanging there. It's
but
not
it's
even
a
the
whole
blood.
lot less explicit than you'd probably expect. That'll change in the sequels. When Kirk and Pam are gone longer than expected, Jerry offers to go look for them and travels through the woods as the sun goes down. Disco Stew.
His death was probably my least
He gets
favorite.
to the old house and also comes around front, where he proves that B&E is just part and parcel for all these rude-ass kids, or 30-year-olds. He heads back into Leatherface's playroom, and although the meat hook is empty, there are sounds coming from the freezer. He opens it to find Pam. Wait, why is she still? Wasn't she just... Oh, there she is. Get on up, girl. One of the best things about this movie is the sound design, from all the industrial sounds that Tobe Hooper recorded in his own home to the sudden instances of loudness like that one, and this one. Leatherface runs in and smashes Jerry's skull to kill him nice and quick. Disco Stew, hopping on the kill count. With Jerry taken care of, Leatherface puts Pam back in the ice
Love
box,
that moment.
and that's actually the last time we see her, so I have no choice but to put her on the kill count now. Maybe she froze to death in there?
I'm assuming she probably bled out too.
Regardless, Leatherface is getting
a hook
sick
to the
of playing
back.
defense here. Well, where are all these darn kids even coming from? Gosh, I moved to the countryside to get away from hooliganry. The late Gunnar Hansen played Leatherface so perfectly in this movie that it's easy to feel bad for the poor guy. Just keep looking at your messed up teeth, Leatherface. It'll all be okay, my sweet boy. Since Jerry had the keys in his pocket, the Hardesty siblings are stranded by the van, so they end up having to set off into the darkness to find him. Man, it is super freaking dark in these
Dude,
woods.
this jump
Franklin,
scare,
could you please shine that flashlight
probably my
somewhere
favorite.
useful?
Stop. Stop.
Oh, it's fucking Leatherface! And he saws into Franklin like a sapling, carving the poor boy's body up right there in his wheelchair while his sister watches and screams like a mad woman. Fun fact, the blood sprays here came from Hooper and makeup artist Dottie Pearl crouching down on either side of the wheelchair and spitting fake blood out of their mouths onto Leatherface. Sally eventually gets the sense to run away.
The craziness
and heads
that they
through
would
the
do
thickets to the only
on
light
set
she
back
sees,
in the day.
hoping it'll bring her salvation from the chainsaw-wielding maniac on her heels. But of course, the light ends up being Leatherface's funhouse of horrors, and he don't exactly need a key to get through that front door.
No, he
While
doesn't.
He saws into it, Sally runs upstairs and into a back room, where she finds a corpse or two sitting in chairs, unable to offer her any advice. We'll see a lot of dried up corpses of unknown people in the Chainsaw series, and I won't be including them on the kill count. It's fine, don't worry about it. Rather worry about poor Sally, since Leatherface is finally through the door. Sally's not done running though, and doesn't even hesitate to crash through the upstairs window and
I
fall
would.
to the
Fuck it.
around to escape her would-be killer. We start the second lap of Sally's final girl circuit, which once again takes us through the haunted forest. The finish line of this lap is that gas station they had stopped at earlier. Sally bursts through a side door and falls onto the floor, but Leatherface doesn't seem to follow her inside. Instead, the old man from the gas station sits her up and tells her everything's gonna be okay. He'll go get his truck and take her to a hospital. While he's out, Sally notices the sizzling meat this guy's got cooking, which, you know, wouldn't be all that bad on its own. Except when he comes back, he's sporting an awfully creepy smile on his face. Oh, and also, he's got a human-sized sack and some rope. Yeah, them some red flags, girl. Sally wisely grabs a knife to defend herself with, but everybody knows that broomstick beats knife. Oh, and Sally. Broomstick also beats Sally. The old man, who's known as the cook in this movie, but will come to be known as Drayton Sawyer,
yeah, I love his performance.
Ties her up, then bags her and drags her into his truck. Man, poor Sally. Really out of the frying pan and into the cook fire with this one.
I hope you're not too uncomfortable down there.
Well, I would be if you stopped poking me with that broomstick, dick. The cook / Drayton Sawyer is an absolutely loathsome motherfucker.
Yeah,
He's
he
played
is.
brilliantly by Jim Sedow, who was pretty much the only experienced actor in this movie. As Drayton approaches the Sawyer house,
Oh, they
he
all
sees
did
the
a
hitchhiker
fantastic
in his native
job.
state, walking down the side of the road. Drayton gets
Play
out
crazy,
of the
man.
truck and
Just
yells
let
some
loose.
slurs at the hitchhiker before giving him the old broomstick beatdown in another of this movie's brilliant and beautiful shots. God damn, I love this cinematography. They get to the house with Drayton still hooting and hollering at the hitchhiker, because it turns out these dudes are brothers to each other, and to Leatherface.
Look what your brother did to that door!
It's weird, I always used to think that Drayton was the hitchhiker and Leatherface's dad, but I guess he's just the oldest brother. And right now, he's taking that brotherly broomstick to his youngest sibling, Leatherface. Leave him alone, Dre. All he wants to do right now is
ruined the
dress and
door.
sound like Mrs. Doubtfire. The hitchhiker, who will come to be known as Nubbins, ties up Sally and discovers her identity, much to his delight.
I thought you was in a hurry.
Yeah, Sally's in a real bad place right now. And if you don't want to watch chaotic misery inflicted on a captive girl for 10 minutes straight,
oh, it gets pretty
I got
fucked.
some bad news for you, friend. Before the festivities can begin, though, you better get Grandpa and bring him downstairs. Yeah, set that
Fuck this
dusty
scene.
boy right at the head of the table. The Sawyer boys cut open Sally's hand and tell their granddad to take this, her blood, and drink of it. And he does.
That is
Man,
so
I thought that dude
unsettling
was
and
dead, but turns
uncomfortable.
out all we needed was some teenager blood, and he turns into the Six Flags guy. The Sawyer bus is coming, and everybody's jumping. Grandpa Sawyer, the character, is supposedly 124 years old, but he was played by John Dugan, who was only 19 at the time. The character's incredible makeup, which took 5 to 7 hours to apply, was done by Dr. W.E. Barnes in his one and only film credit. His actual job was as a plastic surgeon. Also, if you dig Grandpa Sawyer's dance moves here, you'll be happy to know John Dugan can still do them nearly 40 years later. Sally passes out, and when she
That's
comes
awesome.
to, she finds herself in the middle of a fucking nightmare. Her hands tied down to some other hands, and her shrieks of suffering only mocked and echoed by her tormentors. Whoa, and is that a face lamp up top? Yo, look at that face lamp!
Yeah, it is. Holy shit.
Well,
Never really paid
sorry,
attention.
Drayton. If you didn't want me commenting on that face lamp, maybe don't have a face lamp. This miserable dinner scene is the most horrific part of the movie by far, and was also the most torturous thing to film. They shot for over 24 hours straight, although there is some dispute
And it was
as
hot,
to the exact
disgusting,
number.
people were
It
sweating.
proved to be like a 27-hour shooting day.
26 hours.
It was like a 27-hour shoot.
Almost 36 hours straight we shot.
Since they filmed in July in the middle of Texas, with the windows blacked out and a bunch of film lights all over the place, internal temperatures
Fucking hot.
reached 120 degrees, cooking the meat they were using as props and making plenty of people sick.
Boy, was it hot, and the meat got rotten in a hurry. I never did get ill physically, where a lot of people did. They'd run outside, come back in.
There was a moment during the film during the dinner scene when I went out and threw up.
Sally tries
Yeah,
to beg
I mean,
Drayton
that
for
smell of
mercy,
meat was
but
probably
that
fucking
goes about as well
horrendous.
as you'd expect.
And the heat on top of that.
The hitchhiker says that his older brother can't do shit, because he's just the cook, and it's the younger bros who have to do all the distasteful killing work.
I just can't take no pleasure in killing.
To get out of this table set hellscape, Sally even offers up the only thing she has.
I'll do anything you want.
But this plea of desperation falls on deaf
Yeah, it's
ears.
fucked.
These men aren't motivated by usual desires. They're just sadistic cannibals who take pleasure in other people's pain. You'll find no sympathy from them, Sally, no matter how hard you look with your eyes. Damn, you looking hard too, huh? Like blood vessel hard.
Yeah,
Clayton tells his younger
great.
brothers to get on with it and kill her, but the hitchhiker decides that Grandpa's the man for the job.
You always said he's the best. He's the best, all right. Oh, Grandpa's the best killer there ever was.
They arm him with a hammer and send Sally into a screaming pile of jump cuts. Then they untie her and bring her over to Grandpa's killing bucket. And what follows is a super darkly comedic scene where Grandpa, who's supposedly the best
fucking
at
crazy.
killing,
She was
can't
about to
even
offer
hold the
herself
hammer
up
in
to
his
them
hand long enough to strike
to get them
Sally.
to stop.
Tobe Hooper would try to focus more on dark humor like this in Texas Chainsaw 2, which I think he does to pretty good effect.
I think if
With
they would have
Drayton
went down that
cheering
route
him
and they
on,
did that,
Leatherface
they would have
all
not
but
been as
doing the work
likable as they
for him.
were, to be
Grandpa
honest.
finally starts
Like they're
landing
murderers,
blows
they're
on the back
killers,
of
but
Sally's head. But when the hitchhiker tries to take over,
to rape
Sally
somebody
seizes
is
the
just fucked.
opportunity and gets away from them, once again crashing through a window to escape like a baller. She's been tortured
You can't
by
root
the
for
Sawyers
somebody who,
so
like,
long, it's already
rapes, and I'm
freaking
not even
morning,
saying you should
but she
root for
wastes
people
no
who murder
time
people in
limping
movies
down the
either,
road
but
with the hitchhiker already in hot pursuit and
it's
his
like,
younger
wow,
brother
another
Leatherface
type of
rushing
low.
out to join him. The hitchhiker
And
catches
sick.
up to Sally and slashes at her back, playing with his prey long enough that she manages to get out to the main road. Right as a semi-truck
His
pulls
death
up
was
to
good
them,
too, I
Sally gets
forgot.
away
Yeah,
from the
his death,
hitchhiker,
man.
who's not quite as lucky and instead gets the Gage Creed treatment by this big rig's big-ass tires. For this death, they filmed him getting hit by the truck in reverse, a real simple trick, and then obviously used a dummy for the undertread body.
Yeah,
Sally watches
pretty
the
good.
truck pull over,
It looked
and
pretty
although
good,
the
too.
driver gets out to help her, he nopes right back into the cab after seeing
Nope.
Leatherface and his chainsaw. For some reason, instead of driving away, he and Sally climb out of the truck's passenger side
Yeah,
door.
he could have
I
driven.
seriously don't know why they did that, but at least the truck driver grabs a
Probably
monkey
to
wrench
add-
on his way
add
out
on.
so he can ask Leatherface, knock knock. Hit you in the head with a monkey wrench. That causes Leatherface to fall and cut up his own leg, poor boy. But he's back up in no
Fucking-
time as
that's the
Sally
most
and
blood you'll
truck
probably see in the
driver
movie.
haul ass down the street. A blue pickup truck joins the madness and pulls over long enough for Sally to hop inside. And just don't think about the semi-truck driver. Some say he's still running down the street to this very day. Sally is driven away from Leatherface,
And she
a
actually
few
got
more
cut on that
infamous
truck.
shots, some of which are featured in my extended intro, and her terror turns into glee as she realizes that she's finally escaped the unspeakable horrors wrought by this crazed chainsaw murderer and his sadistic family of cannibals. How many people did the Sawyers invite to their dinner party? Let's find out
I think
and get
4.
to the numbers.
Well, there's 4 deaths, right? The girl, the 2 guys,
5
and
people died in the Texas
5K.
Chainsaw Massacre, which might be lower than you expected, but I tried to warn you about that up
Oh,
top.
Franklin.
The
I don't know why I forgot
victims consisted of
Franklin.
4 men and only 1 woman, giving us a mostly blueberry meat pie. And with a runtime of 83 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 16.6 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Kirk. It kicks
Yeah,
off the movie's
yeah.
kill count and comes out of nowhere. And I love the way it's done in mostly silence. Dull Machete for lamest kill will go to Jerry, I guess? I
Yeah.
actually think all these kills are effective, but
They
if
are,
I include the
but
meat
Jerry's
poking
just-
as part of Pam's death, then I think it's got to go to Jerry. And that's it. The Texas Chainsaw
Jerry's
Massacre
death, yeah,
came
was
out
probably
in
the most
1974
underwhelming.
and was actually banned in the UK for 23 years. Tobe Hooper
Oh,
would make
shit.
a drastically different sequel a dozen years later, which I'll be looking at next week. But until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching
Hell
this Kill
yeah,
Count.
man.
I want to thank some patrons like Damien Chaos,
'Kay.
Gamer Taku, Josh Green,
So,
and Light and Colorland.
that was the
who has
Texas
a
Chainsaw
channel
Massacre.
where he does Kill
I
counts for
genuinely
days. I'm
agree
just
with
as
those
excited as
kills.
all of
I
you to be
definitely
covering the
think,
Texas
yeah,
Chainsaw Massacre series.
the guy
The only
who
reason it
walks,
took me
I already
so
forgot
long
their
is
names.
because I like to space out
I
the
don't
big
pay attention to
franchises. It wouldn't
survivors'
be as
names
fun
all the
for
time
me
because,
if I
you know,
just
they're
knocked
just there
them
to
all
die,
out
but
right in a row. Thanks, everybody.
definitely
You
the
good
guy who
people.
got hit in the head over the sledgehammer and then he was twitching and shit and got dragged into the door was probably, yeah, easily the best death. I agree with him right there. That was perfect. I think it was Jerry. Was it Jerry? Jerry. The guy who gets just hit in the head, and that's it. That his death was obviously underwhelming, though still effective and still good. And Franklin would probably be my second favorite kill, because Franklin's death was just one of the best jump scares of all time, and it was pretty gruesome and horrifying to watch. This poor guy couldn't even escape because he was in a wheelchair. Horrifying shit. So yeah, that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and yeah, next month we are going to the actual barbecue place that Drayton was working at and staying the night there. So we're really excited for that, and we're going to be filming too, and it's going to be posted up on this channel. So of course, if you guys like this type of content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. We post as often as can. We keep it retro while we do it, and we enjoy doing it. If you want to support the channel, anyway, we have a Patreon and all that stuff. If you guys want to check that stuff out, all the links are in the description below. You can follow us on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. So until next time, movie friends, keep it retro and check you guys out in the next video. Take care.